So my name's Pat, and I'll be showing you a quick tour of the JobSessions comparison report, which is a new way to compare P6 schedule files online. What makes the JobSessions report differently is that you can simply upload your schedule files directly on the site and generate the report in 3 easy steps. There's no installation required, and it's only $6 a month. So let's get started. So on the left here we have our previous XER file, so we can just choose and browse the previous file that we want to compare to. So in this case it's on my desktop here. I'll just double click that. File uploaded. On the right we choose our updated XER file that we want to compare. So again, choosing the September file here that we're going to compare. I just click generate report and then take a moment as the report is running and being generated. Once the report has finished, we can complete it by downloading the report right now. In addition, a version of the report will also be emailed to you when it's done, so you don't have to stay on the page the whole time. But here we go, we'll click the report. We can see what's inside. So here we go. Here's the report. So I can see our previous schedule file. Right here, the schedule file name along with the data date, and then we can see below the current file with the current data date and when the report was run. If we scroll down, we have an interactive table of contents here where I can click on each section and it'll jump to that section of the report. On every page, one thing I like is we have this click to table of contents, so we can jump back on any page back to the table of contents and re-navigate to a different part of the report that we want to see. So I can walk you. I'm just going to walk you quickly through the report, show you some of the features that it has. But overall, it's a one-page table of contents, so it shows you all of the items that the report checks for. And so up top here we have our graphical overview. So we have a milestone comparison showing all the milestones in the schedule and the previous finish date compared to the current finish date and the variance between those two dates, along with a status of whether the variance is positive or negative. If we click back to the table of contents, we have a critical path progress. So these were the items that were on the longest path in the previous file, and shows the previous finish date compared to the current finish date of those activities to show whether or not those items were in fact achieved throughout the update period. Has the variance for the finish dates to show whether they were on time, behind, or ahead of schedule. The activity status as of the updated file, and the status overall of whether there was a positive or negative variance. So in this case, all critical path activities scheduled within the data date period slipped significantly. We can see here, and so all the status is negative. Jumping back to our table of contents, we have some summary graphs. One of my favorite parts of the report is we have the number of changes made this period. So we can see here it's basically a summation of the table of contents, and we can see the number of changes in each category. So for instance, there were 15 added activities down here. Up here we can see there were 30 added relationship changes, there were 12 deleted relationships, and zero modified relationships. So anything changing from like a finish to finish to a finish to start or something like that, where maybe the schedule is being compressed. So there were 0 modified relationships. Over here we have a float trend, so we can see the number of activities in each float category compared from the previous month to the current. So we can see roughly 300 activities were completed as of last month, whereas this month it's slightly higher. We can see here many of the activities had less than 1 day of float, and it looks like a slight decrease as of this month. So some of those activities it looked like might have shifted into the completed status. But so that shows you the float trend. Below that we have a completed versus remaining, so the number of activities that were complete in the previous file versus remaining, and the number as of this update period. So we can see here went from 45.5 to 48.6, so roughly 3% increase in completed activities. Scrolling down, one of the things I really like about this report is it's very clean, easy to read tables. So here are the number of here are the added activities in this update file, and highlighted in yellow is an activity that's on the current month's longest path. So we can see that this activity was added, therefore had some sort of an impact on the critical path that we can look to more deeply as to what that impact was. But we can see here's start, finish date, the status as of the update period, and the total float. Going back to our table of contents, we can see essentially all of the activity changes that have taken place this period. We can jump to any of those. So just going through it, we have added activities, deleted activities, original duration changes, remaining duration changes, expected finish changes, calendar changes, primary constraint changes, description changes, and activity type changes. So things going from like a level of effort to task dependent or something like that. So really intended to show all the changes that have taken place. We have down here the progress changes / assessment. So these are what status changes took place for the activities. So did it go from started to completed, or not started to in progress, things like that. Any actual dates that were removed, which could be problematic, but maybe needing some more attention or understanding from the project team. And activities that were scheduled to start or finish within the data date periods, but did not. So things that were scheduled to make progress and did not achieve that progress. So a glance at that. We also have relationship changes. So added relationships, deleted, and modified relationships. I really like the table in these compared to other comparison tools. It's pretty neatly laid out. We have the predecessor activity. This is the added relationship section. We have the predecessor activity compared to the successor activity that it was linked up to, the total float between those activities, whether they were on the longest path or not, and the relationship type that was tied between them. So if I scroll down a little bit, I can see here that these two activities were tied together and they are both on the longest path. So therefore, it's probably important to go investigate that a little bit further to see what kind of an impact that had on the overall completion date. Jumping back to our table of contents, the last and final section we have is some quality checks that are performed on the current file. So we can see relationships with a finish to start and a positive lag. So in some instances, this can be problematic. It's typically viewed as not great scheduling practice to have finish to start relationships with positive lags. It's indicative that it's a invisible activity that's on the schedule, and so schedulers sometimes would like those converted to the activities they were intended to represent. For instance, there's between these two activities, there's a finish to start relationship with a 15-day lag. So in essence, there's a 15-day gap between those activities. So this would say maybe it's important to convert that into an actual activity rather than a finish to start with a lag. But that's for you to decide. Clicking back to the table of contents, we have some other checks here. So incomplete activities with no predecessors and incomplete activities with no successors. So just making sure that activities are tied in properly, and if they're not, just flagging them. And then we also have some other ones, in progress activities where the remaining duration is greater than the original duration. So poor planning, meaning maybe the remaining duration exceeded the original duration, and so just flagging items like that. Activities with 0 remaining duration and no finish date. So in essence, things that are should be complete but don't have an actual finish date and aren't closed out. Also, activities where remaining duration is equal to the original duration. So in essence, no progress has been made on started activities. So that's a quick glance at the report. Again, check it out at JobSessions.com. Thanks so much.